Hello everybody, welcome to my channel.
Rock Hudson, 1925 to 1985, was one of the most iconic leading men of Hollywood's golden age, celebrated for his matinee-idol looks, charm, and versatility as both a dramatic and comedic actor. Beyond his stardom, he also became a cultural figure whose private life and public persona reflected the complexities of Hollywood's studio era and America's shifting attitudes toward sexuality and celebrity. Early life. Rock Hudson was born Roy Harold Scherer Jr. on November 17, 1925, in Winnetka, Illinois. His early childhood was modest and difficult. His father abandoned the family during the Great Depression, and his mother later remarried. Hudson took his stepfather's surname, Fitzgerald, and grew up with a mix of hardship and resilience. After serving as an aircraft mechanic in the U.S. Navy during World War II, he moved to Hollywood with dreams of becoming an actor, despite having no formal training. Hollywood breakthrough. Hudson's striking height, 6 feet 5 inches, chiseled good looks, and deep voice made him an immediate standout. He was discovered by talent scout Henry Wilson, who engineered his stage name, Rock Hudson, to emphasize strength and rugged masculinity. Signed to Universal Pictures in the late 1940s, Hudson first appeared in minor roles before steadily rising in prominence. His breakout came with Magnificent Obsession, 1954, opposite Jane Wyman, which showcased his ability to carry a dramatic lead. He cemented his status as a major star with Giant, 1956, co-starring Elizabeth Taylor and James Dean. The epic earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, marking the peak of his critical acclaim. Career highlights. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, Hudson became one of Hollywood's most bankable stars, with a career spanning romance, comedy, and drama. Pillow Talk, 1959, his pairing with Doris Day in this romantic comedy was a massive hit, launching a series of beloved collaborations, Lover Come Back, Send Me No Flowers, that defined the light-hearted sophistication of the era. All That Heaven Allows, 1955, directed by Douglas Sirk. This film paired Hudson with Jane Wyman in a melodrama that would later be recognized as a classic of the genre. Ice Station Zebra, 1968. A Cold War thriller that reinforced Hudson's status as a rugged leading man. Hudson's television career was also significant. In the 1970s, he starred in the crime drama Macmillan and Wife, 1971 to 1977. Which introduced him to a new generation of fans. Personal life and private struggles. Publicly, Hudson was marketed as the epitome of American masculinity and heterosexual romance, often photographed with female stars and rumored girlfriends. Privately, however, he was gay, a truth carefully hidden in a Hollywood system that discouraged open acknowledgement of homosexuality. His sexuality was an open secret within the industry, but he kept it concealed to protect his career in an era when coming out could end stardom. In 1955, Hudson entered a brief, studio-arranged marriage to his agent's secretary, Phyllis Gates, which ended in divorce after 3 years. Gates later claimed she hadn't known he was gay at the time. AIDS diagnosis and legacy. In the early 1980s, Hudson's health began to decline. In 1985, he publicly disclosed that he had AIDS, making him the first major Hollywood celebrity to do so. His announcement shocked the world, drawing unprecedented attention to the AIDS epidemic, which until then had been stigmatized and largely ignored by mainstream media and government. Hudson's courage in facing his illness transformed public perception of AIDS, spurred activism, and helped humanize the crisis. He died on October 2, 1985, at the age of 59 in Beverly Hills, California. Cultural impact. Rock Hudson remains remembered as a quintessential Hollywood leading man, embodying both the glamour and the constraints of the studio era. His films continue to be celebrated, particularly his collaborations with Douglas Sirk and Doris Day. Beyond his screen work, his personal story has become a powerful symbol of the hidden lives many gay actors were forced to live in mid-20th century America. His AIDS disclosure was a watershed moment that brought visibility and compassion to a global health crisis, leaving an impact far beyond cinema. Expanding on Rock Hudson's life and career. Rising to stardom after his early years of minor roles in the late 1940s, Rock Hudson's career began to flourish in the 1950s. Studio publicity machines promoted him as a wholesome, all-American man, handsome, charming, and dependable. This image resonated strongly with audiences, and he became Universal Pictures' top male star throughout the decade. Hudson's collaborations with director Douglas Sirk were particularly important to his reputation. In Magnificent Obsession, 1954, and All That Heaven Allows, 1955, he gave performances that combined emotional vulnerability with his imposing physical presence. These films, lush and melodramatic, became classics of 1950s cinema and are now recognized as rich explorations of social conformity and personal sacrifice. Hudson's ability to embody sincerity made him perfect for Sirk's layered storytelling. Giant, 1956, and critical acclaim. Hudson's role as Bick Benedict in Giant represented the pinnacle of his career. Acting opposite Elizabeth Taylor and James Dean, Hudson delivered a nuanced performance as a Texas cattle rancher whose views evolve over time. The film tackled themes of race, class, and generational change. Hudson held his own against Dean's rebellious energy and Taylor's star power, earning an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. This recognition solidified him as more than just a studio-created matinee idol. He was a respected actor. Romantic comedy. King Hudson's partnership with Doris Day defined 1960s romantic comedies. Beginning with Pillow Talk, 1959, their on-screen chemistry became legendary. Audiences adored their witty banter and playful yet sophisticated romances. Films like Lover Come Back, 1961, and Send Me No Flowers, 1964, captured an idealized vision of mid-century American courtship, where Hudson's suave charm was perfectly matched with Day's wholesome vivacity. These films also contained an ironic layer that resonates today. The scripts often hinged on mistaken identities, hidden truths, or double lives, mirroring Hudson's own concealed personal reality. Shifting career. In the 1970s, as the Hollywood studio system declined, Hudson's box office dominance waned. He successfully transitioned into television, starring in Macmillan and Wife alongside Susan St. James. Playing Commissioner Stuart Macmillan, Hudson brought warmth and authority to the popular mystery series, which ran for 6 seasons. He also made guest appearances in other shows, showing his willingness to adapt in a changing entertainment landscape. Personal struggles behind the scenes while publicly maintaining his image as a romantic leading man. Hudson's personal life was far more complicated. His homosexuality was known within Hollywood circles, but the studio system, and the social attitudes of the time, forced him into secrecy. The pressures of maintaining this double life were immense. His short-lived marriage to Phyllis Gates has often been interpreted as a «beard» arrangement orchestrated to shield his private life. Though Gates denied knowledge of his sexuality during their marriage, later accounts suggested otherwise. After the divorce, Hudson lived more privately, surrounding himself with trusted friends but rarely speaking publicly about his personal relationships. AIDS announcement and public reaction. In the early 1980s, Hudson's declining health led to rumors, but it was not until July 1985 that his publicist confirmed he had AIDS. The news was groundbreaking. It was the first time a major Hollywood star acknowledged having the disease. Hudson's announcement had several profound effects. It shattered the myth of AIDS as a disease that only affected marginalized groups. It brought urgency to public discussions, fundraising, and research. His close friend Elizabeth Taylor became one of the most vocal advocates for AIDS awareness, inspired in part by Hudson's struggle. Hudson's final public appearance was in 1985 on the television show Doris Day's Best Friends. Though visibly frail, he embraced Day warmly, and the moment became one of the most poignant images of his later years. Death and legacy. Rock Hudson died on October 2, 1985, at the age of 59. His passing marked a turning point in public perception of the AIDS epidemic, humanizing the crisis for millions of Americans. Today, Hudson is remembered in multiple ways. As one of Hollywood's most handsome and beloved leading men of the 1950s and 1960s. As a pioneer, albeit reluctant, in bringing LGBTQ+ visibility to mainstream culture. As a symbol of how celebrity can influence social and political change, even unintentionally. His name also lives on through the Rock Hudson Memorial AIDS Foundation, established to continue the fight against the disease. The man behind the image Hollywood's constructed masculinity. Rock Hudson wasn't just an actor, he was a Hollywood product. In the 1950s, studios manufactured stars with carefully crafted identities. And Hudson became the ultimate embodiment of the era's masculine ideal. Tall, broad-shouldered, and soft-spoken. He was marketed as the perfect romantic partner for women and the model of heterosexual manhood. Studio press releases linked him to female stars like Vera Ellen, Julie Adams, or his frequent co-star Doris Day, often planting stories of romance to strengthen his public image. Yet, behind this facade, Hudson lived with the fear of exposure. In mid-20th century America, an openly gay identity would have destroyed his career. Many gay actors faced similar pressures, but Hudson's status as a top romantic lead made the stakes even higher. His relationships and private world. Hudson's marriage to Phyllis Gates, 1955 to 1958, was short and strained. Some biographers argue it was arranged to silence rumors, while Gates herself claimed she loved him genuinely but felt deceived. After their divorce, Hudson never married again. Privately, he had relationships with men throughout his life, often within trusted social circles. Close friends later described him as affectionate, humorous, and loyal. However, the constant need to hide this part of himself took an emotional toll. Unlike some contemporaries who lived discreetly but comfortably within Hollywood's underground gay scene, Hudson often felt trapped between his public image and private desires. A friendship that defined an era. One of Hudson's most important friendships was with Elizabeth Taylor. Their bond deepened during the filming of Giant, and she remained a steadfast ally throughout his life. When he became ill, Taylor not only supported him personally but also took up the fight against AIDS as a lifelong cause. She co-founded the American Foundation for AIDS Research, AMFAR, directly inspired by Hudson's suffering. Acting style and on-screen persona. Rock Hudson's acting journey was fascinating. Early critics dismissed him as wooden, arguing he was more looks than talent. But with guidance from directors like Douglas Sirk, Hudson learned to channel sincerity, warmth, and vulnerability into his performances. Romantic hero. In comedies, he mastered timing, often playing suave yet slightly self-deprecating men who won audiences with charm rather than bravado. Melodramatic star. In dramas, particularly with Sirk, Hudson portrayed men caught between social conventions and personal desires, a subtle reflection of his own life. Man of action. In thrillers and adventure films, his imposing figure lent credibility, though these roles often lacked the emotional depth of his romantic and dramatic work. He wasn't a chameleon actor like Brando or Dean, but he had a unique gift. He made audiences believe in his sincerity, whether as a rancher, a playboy, or a grieving lover. Final years and public courage. By the early 1980s, Hudson's once robust physique had noticeably diminished. He collapsed in a Paris hotel in 1984, prompting speculation about his health. When he revealed in July 1985 that he had AIDS, it stunned the world. At the time, AIDS was not only deadly but also highly stigmatized, associated with fear, moral judgment, and misinformation. Hudson's revelation marked a cultural turning point. Media coverage. Suddenly, AIDS wasn't just a gay disease reported in niche outlets, it was front-page news worldwide. Public sympathy. Fans who had adored Hudson as a screen idol now saw him as a human being facing immense suffering. Political pressure. His diagnosis forced government leaders, including President Ronald Reagan, a longtime friend, to publicly address AIDS after years of silence. Hudson's final months were spent quietly with close friends, but his brief, fragile appearance on Doris Day's Best Friends in 1985 left an unforgettable image. A beloved star, visibly ill, yet still radiating warmth as he hugged his dear friend. Enduring legacy. Rock Hudson's life continues to resonate on multiple levels. Hollywood legend. He remains one of the most iconic stars of the Golden Age, remembered for Giant, Pillow Talk, and countless other classics. LGBTQ+ symbol, though he never publicly came out in his lifetime. His story highlights the pressures gay actors faced in mid-century Hollywood and the costs of living in secrecy. AIDS awareness pioneer. His illness and death gave a human face to a devastating epidemic, galvanizing research, activism, and empathy worldwide. Today, his films are celebrated not only for their entertainment value but also for what they reveal about the contradictions of fame, masculinity, and identity in 20th century America. Early years and path to stardom. Rock Hudson was born Roy Harold Scherer Jr. in 1925. His childhood was tough. His father left the family when he was young, and his mother remarried. His stepfather, Wallace Fitzgerald, gave him his last name, but their relationship was strained. After serving in the U.S. Navy during World War II, Hudson returned with ambitions of becoming an actor. Even though he had no training and struggled with reading scripts due to undiagnosed dyslexia, he worked as a truck driver and mailed his photos to studios until he was noticed by Henry Wilson, a notorious talent agent. Wilson specialized in creating names and images for pretty boys of Hollywood. He transformed Roy Fitzgerald into Rock Hudson, a moniker meant to sound strong, American, and unforgettable. It worked. Career in Hollywood breakthrough. In the 1950s, Hudson's early roles were small, but Universal saw star potential. His breakout came in Magnificent Obsession, 1954, which turned him into a bona fide leading man. Directed by Douglas Sirk, the film was lush, emotional, and perfectly tailored to Hudson's earnest screen presence. The same partnership produced All That Heaven Allows, 1955, where Hudson played a young gardener in love with an older widow, challenging 1950s class and gender norms. These Sirk melodramas were dismissed as glossy women's pictures at the time but are now considered masterpieces. Hudson's acting in them, sincere, vulnerable, and quietly strong, was a huge part of their success. Peak with Giant, 1956, Hudson's greatest triumph came with Giant. Cast alongside Elizabeth Taylor and James Dean, He played rancher Bick Benedict in an epic spanning decades of Texas history. Hudson matured as an actor here, delivering a layered performance that earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. Interestingly, Hudson had a difficult time on set. James Dean's unpredictable method acting clashed with Hudson's more traditional style. Their tension was real, but it fueled the on-screen rivalry between their characters. The Doris Day era. Hudson's career shifted gears in the late 1950s and 1960s, when he starred in sophisticated comedies with Doris Day. Their first, Pillow Talk, 1959, was a smash hit, earning him a Golden Globe. Two more followed, Lover Come Back, 1961, and Send Me No Flowers, 1964. Their chemistry was magical. Doris Day's wholesome sparkle played perfectly against Hudson's suave charm. Ironically, these films often hinged on Hudson's characters pretending to be something he wasn't, parallels that would only become clearer later when his private life emerged. Transition and television work. As Hollywood changed in the late 1960s, Hudson's stardom cooled. He appeared in thrillers, Ice Station Zebra, westerns, The Undefeated with John Wayne, and even musicals, Darling Lily with Julie Andrews, but none captured his earlier magic. In the 1970s, Hudson reinvented himself on television with Macmillan and Wife, 1971-77, where he played a police commissioner opposite Susan St. James. It was a huge success and gave him stability as a household name. By the early 1980s, he was appearing in guest roles, including a recurring spot on Dynasty, 1984-85. Ironically, his final acting role included a scripted kiss with Linda Evans, later revealed to have been filmed while he was already ill with AIDS, causing widespread panic when the diagnosis became public. Personal life. Hudson's private life was heavily guarded by Hollywood. Studio publicity portrayed him as a ladies' man, but within the industry, it was widely known he was gay. He was part of a hidden network of gay actors and friends who lived in quiet secrecy, throwing private parties but never acknowledging their sexuality publicly. Marriage to Phyllis Gates, 1955-1958, often described as a lavender marriage, a union arranged to conceal homosexuality. Some claim Hudson was pressured into it by Henry Wilson and Universal to quell rumors. Gates later insisted she didn't know Hudson was gay, though this remains debated. Friendships. Hudson kept close bonds with people who accepted him, including Elizabeth Taylor, who later became one of the world's most famous AIDS activists. His friendship with Doris Day also endured for decades. Hudson was known personally as gentle, shy, and loyal. Friends recalled him as warm and humorous, though deeply cautious about his private life being exposed. AIDS, illness, and cultural impact. By the early 1980s, Hudson's health began failing. In July 1985, while in Paris, he collapsed. Soon after, his publicist confirmed he had AIDS, making him the first major Hollywood star to reveal such a diagnosis. At a time when AIDS was still seen as taboo, Hudson's disclosure was seismic. It put a famous, beloved face to a disease many dismissed, prompted President Reagan, a personal friend, to finally speak publicly about AIDS, after years of silence. Sparked an outpouring of sympathy and donations toward.
Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye.